I told you one day I'd eventually get around to talking about the inspiration journal. I get probably more questions about the inspiration journal and the silly little inclusions inside and why they're there and how did I put them in there than probably anything else I get asked questions of. So we'll kind of go over there and then come back here. But the inspiration journal, as it is like this, we hand make them. Now, do I hand make them all? No, now I don't. Now, if you live near me and you have a sewing machine and you know how to use it, I totally implore you to make inspiration journals. So the idea being that I love journals. I have tons of journals. I am probably working in 6 or 7 current journals right now. But I wanted a place when I transitioned from scrapbooking into art, mixed media, journaling. I wanted a place that was special, that I could almost document, visual kind of documentation of me changing as an artist. It was a place where I could try new products. It was a place where I could take risks. And it was a different type of book than was out there before. I love fabric, and I even started into fabric scrapbooking before I did this. So the inside of the book is canvas, because I wanted to be able to test some things that I could do on canvas as opposed to paper as I was learning. And the pretty fabric on the outside, well, I kind of tend to hoard fabric, so it was just my way to use the fabric that I love so much. And the big button and the clasp was so when my book got nice and thick and junky, I could keep it all together. Now, the paper inside, people always ask me, is it special paper? Is it magic paper? Nope, it is actually just basil cardstock. I had tried expensive watercolor papers and found really quickly that they weren't strong enough to be folded and hold the wet media like I needed. The pages would just fall apart. It really is just pressed paper. So I went back and forth and then came up with what I knew as a scrapbooker was fabulous, was basil cardstock, and that's what I went with. So people will look at my pages and think, oh, but that's really thick, it must be special paper. It's just that there's so many layers of stuff on my book that they look special. It's also the paint I use. I like golden paint, and it does give this nice sheen and texture to it. All right, so that said, the cover themselves is a little bit larger, the other way, than the book, and that's so as your pages get thicker and thicker, the cover will actually fit. So many journals I'd worked in before this, the book would alligator. That means the spine was really small and the pages would get so thick and I couldn't close it. So that was why I personally engineered the book so that it would accommodate all the thick layers of media that I wanted to put in there. All right, so the inside, the moment you've all been waiting for. Okay, so when you buy them pre-made from me, your books will have one signature, and that's just one, that inside. There are 6 white cardstock pages folded on each other, so there are 12 pages of white, and basically they're about 6 by 9 pages, and then in between each page is folded in an inclusion, and these are bits of things that I've found from office supply stores. And basically the reason is when I was learning to move from scrapbooking paper, which basically involved no differentiation of texture, I wanted to experiment on other papers like envelopes and manila tags and all those things that are kind of randomly stuck in here. Even the different weights, something like this punch card as opposed to just a regular old index card, the texture of the paper is different, the weight of the paper is different. Some are lined, some are not. You'd have to work with pattern on there and try to manipulate it. So that was another reason to include those papers in there. And the main reason was because I had come from an art that was to be mirrored or to be thought of as one spread of pages, as my dog is diving under my feet. I needed something to give me a hurdle, to give me a challenge in between. Not to always think as a spread, but to think as different sizes and incorporating different bits of things. It's how I kind of worked myself into working on different substrates and how I learned to manipulate the media that I was using. It would react differently. I would need to gesso. I wouldn't need to gesso, depending on all those things. So that was how I basically learned. And then I wanted this to be something I kept up with. And I started giving myself the challenge of each week I was going to do it. And by putting it on the blog, I was holding myself accountable. So let's go over here and let me show you a little bit more in detail the difference between the journals, because that's the next question I usually get asked. What's the difference between an inspiration journal and Collage Monday? And there's not a whole lot of difference, but I'll take you over there and show you. All right, so this stack of journals right here is what I would call my working journals. These are the ones I have going on right now that I'm constantly working in. So the first one being the inspiration journal. This is the one I work in every Wednesday until I fill it up, and then I get a new one. This journal has 2 signatures in it. So I'm through one of the signatures and I'm working on the second. Now, that's upside down. I'll just keep it like that. So you saw in this book how it has 1 signature in there. Well, I basically add a second signature in, and we sell these at the studio too, but now that you know it's Basil cardstock at Office Supplies, it's not a secret, so you can do it yourself. But we sell them pre-punched with everything in it and folded. And basically I just add and bind this right behind using just a ribbon. It's not into the center of it. There's 2 signatures sitting side by side in the journal when I start. So, like I said, I've got 2 different signatures in my book, and I can only work to about 2 signatures before the book is just offensively too large in there. All right, and the other journals I have, these are the toned journals. They're by Strathmore. This one, I think this is a brown one, or was a brown one. I like working in these because they have a toned background, and that allows the color to take on different personalities. Now, this is a book I collect stuff in, meaning all the leftover bits, the jelly prints, anything that's leftover paint and stencils, I just smush it in here. I kind of call it a junk book or smush book or anything like that. And that one has brown pages. This one has gray tonal pages to it. And again, it's just the same idea, but just a larger book. And you'll see leftover modeling paste, and they get junky. And I try to get them so they won't stick together, but they stick together a little bit. And you'll see if they've stuck together too much. Let's see if I can find one. You'll see tape bits in there, like if it ripped at one point, I'll just put tape over it and keep building on it. But these collect all the leftover remnants of my art. And it could be any medium, really. There's stamps, there's paint, see some more tape there. This is basically from the palette, smushed in there. So yeah, these are my Collage Monday, soon to be probably journals, and they've just kind of taken on a life of their own. They're messy and they're junky, and I think I love that best about them. All right, so then I've got my Collage Monday. Now, my Collage Mondays have always been in a moleskin. I really just love moleskin journals, and in here there's just bits of stuff left over. If I'm using up stickers or if I'm using up just the stuff I've collected. And usually between these pages you'll see that's got like a powder on it. I put baby powder on them so they don't stick. But I would say they're truly collage. Every little bit of anything could be thrown in here. And in the Inspiration Wednesday, it's kind of the mindset that's different. When I go into working into the Inspiration Wednesday, it's more of, how can I manipulate media today? Whereas this is, I've got so much junk I'm hoarding, let's use it up. And let's see if I can force myself into creativity using it instead of hoarding it. So even though, yes, the book is different, really, it's the philosophy going into it. This really is where I have grown as an artist. Some of the journals, as you look back, it really does document who I am as an artist, and I like having that freedom to create in here, and even, I would say without public consumption, but it is always public, but it's not, I don't have to be perfect at the end of the day in this book. And not that I have to be perfect anywhere else, but I learn more from the mistakes in this book than anywhere else. All right, so that's that. And this journal, which will become next year's replacement for Canvas Create, is one of the big A3 journals, and it's like 16 by 11. And you'll see as I started working in this journal is just super huge. It's like canvases on paper, and because I'm still working in it, I haven't taken all the pictures of it yet. I just got papers in between, just keeping it safe. But this will be next year, and there's 48 spreads to be done in here, and throughout next year we will be doing that. So this is more of a class that I'm working on. So I hope that explains a lot about the book. It's not that I'm adding in little bits of paper. They're actually bound into the simplest form of binding ever. And I also, if you're interested, if you don't want to buy the journal from me, when I first started doing it, I actually just did a video, and now this was probably 5 years ago. So know that video has lacked the technology of the past 5 years. But there is a video on my website that does also show how from start to finish I make the inspiration journal. I'm actually making one on camera with you. But as I started doing that, thinking people would want to make their own, I started getting more and more inquiries about just selling them and having them pre-made to sell. So I have both options on there, as well as the extra inclusions if you did want to get those to put in there so that your journal is the size of mine when I finish. So that's kind of the story of the Inspiration Wednesday and Inspiration Journal. They have just become something that I have included into my repertoire of teaching myself and becoming this eternal student of art. Hope that makes sense to you. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer all of them. And that's it. See you next Wednesday.